If you're like most actors, you're approaching your auditions the way a professional tennis player approaches their second serve, and it's hurting you. We're going to talk about what this actually means and give you 3 potential solutions to this problem. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. Ding! Sometimes I like to say the ding. If you like this content and want to know even more about what's happening in the Southeastern market, be sure to subscribe to our Monday newsletter, The Scuttlebutt. You can find a link in the show notes below. Okay, before we start, credit where credit is due. This analogy that I'll be talking about in this video comes directly from a friend of mine and amazing coach, Joe Town, from the Performer's Mindset. That pic was actually taken at the workshop where he dropped this little nugget. It is so simple, elegant, and ultimately spot on for a problem that is rampant with actors. In fact, I immediately started to rethink my approach to auditions and specifically how I approach the on-set experience. Okay, if you don't play tennis or aren't familiar with the rules, let me set the stage a little bit. When it's your turn to serve, you essentially have 2 tries to put the ball in play. If on your first serve you miss the little box on the other side of the court where the ball has to land, then you get a second try. That first attempt that failed is called a fault, and you would hear a judge, if you were watching this on television, scream it out loud. But again, you get one more try. Woo! Thank goodness. If on your second serve you still miss that box where the ball has to land, well, then the points go to your opponent. Either 15 or 10. I still don't understand the scoring system of tennis, but that's not the point. What I want to talk about is the mentality of that tennis player as they approach the first or the second serve. You can imagine that a professional tennis player has all sorts of spins and speeds and placements that they're thinking about on that first serve. After all, they'd love to ace the other player and not even let them put the ball back into play. But when they miss that first serve, when it's a fault and they have to go to their second serve, what happens to their mentality? Well, quite simply, they get conservative. They have to, because if they miss that second serve, then the points automatically go to their opponent. Not good. In fact, I did a quick search online, and it turns out that the average change in speed between first and second serve is 30 miles per hour. In other words, on average, the second serve is 30 miles an hour slower than the first serve. Makes sense, right? It's too risky to let loose the same way you did on the first serve. Okay, Matt, what does this have to do with the craft of acting? Well, it's simple. When you're doing a self-tape, in the privacy of your home or even at a taping service like Get Taped, I'd wager a hefty sum that, on average, your first take is much like the second serve of a professional tennis player. In fact, for many actors, you need a lot of takes just to get to that first serve mentality. You either need to warm up, or you need the feedback from your reader, or maybe you're hiring a coach to help you get there. But essentially, they're just giving you permission to do the very thing you should be doing from the start. Think about it. In your last, say, 10 auditions, how many times did you start with the first serve, with the dangerous take, with the unpredictable take? And if you didn't start there, how many takes before you felt like you got there? And then think about your last few callback experiences or on-set experiences where there was a director in the room and suddenly the stakes are higher and now you're trying to impress someone. Did it get worse? And what I mean is, were you even more prone to that second serve mentality? Wow. Mind blown. When Joe hit us with that analogy, it dawned on me how easy it is for us to get lulled into a sense of starting with the second serve, starting with the conservative take, and then slowly working into that first serve mentality. Now, for me personally, I feel pretty good about being in that first serve mentality on my first take in the self-tape audition. Just ask Brooke. It's rare for me to do more than one take in the taping room, unless, to use another tennis analogy, unless I have a let. I hit the net on that first serve, and so I'm still in first serve mentality on the next take. I'm just maybe exploring something different, tweaking something. Maybe I had a flub, maybe I have an idea, etc. But what dawned on me is that when I get to set, being an Enneagram 9, I sort of revert immediately to the second serve mentality. I get conservative. I shift into this mode where I try to assimilate to the vibe, the mood on set. So when it's stressful and I know I'm there as maybe a day player to fulfill a utility character, then I kind of just want to not make waves and show up, do the work, and go home. But then I'll be surprised by a director who actually wants to slow things down, hone in on my performance, and actually work to get me to that first serve. And then I feel like, oh, I should have been there from the start. I should have been looser. I should have been stepping into my freedom and my creativity and my collaboration more from the start. I shouldn't have had to wait for the encouragement from the permission from that director. Again, mind blown. Thanks, Joe. And again, if this is not clear, what I'm talking about when it comes to this first serve mentality is that tennis player on that first serve is really on the offensive. They are putting all their tools to work in order to put the best serve possible, the best ball in play. They're trying to ace that other player. They're letting loose. They're being free. They're being creative. They're having ideas about where they could place that ball that would surprise their opponent. They're in a different headspace than in that second serve when I almost said second take, when suddenly they have to get conservative because now they're just trying to put that ball in play. And if as an actor, if we are in that second serve mentality, what we're thinking about is, oh, I need to please my agent. I need to please casting. I need to please the director. I need to shrink myself. I need to limit my choices. I need to fit into the puzzle. I need to change myself or dull myself or do something essentially to lose myself because I'm trying to be safe, because I'm trying to book the audition, because I'm desperate. You're working from a fear mentality. You're working from a lack mentality. And so you're jumping immediately into this conservative headspace of the second serve. And that's why it's dangerous to us as artists, as actors. I'm not saying this isn't complicated when you are thinking about booking the role and you're doing your script analysis and your analysis of the showrunner and of the director and of maybe previous seasons. That's all factoring into your decisions, but it shouldn't make your choices, the end result of when you go to record, it shouldn't make that performance become more conservative. You shouldn't be losing yourself and dulling yourself down and losing what is essentially your signature. And so speaking of my mind being blown by this analogy and my brain and my head, I want to jump to these three solutions that I alluded to in my cold open. The first one is simple. Just decide to change. Stop having that second serve mentality. Go straight to the first serve. Boom, done. But for most of us, it's not that simple, especially if this is a revelation or it's still a little confusing and you have to sit with this concept. Which takes me to the second option, which is get with Joe Town at the Performer's Mindset. His work is groundbreaking. I personally have taken 3 workshops with Joe over the last 4 years, and I took advantage of his one-on-one coaching for a 3-month span, and all of it has been invaluable to my growth as an actor. I'll put a link in the show notes below to his website where you can learn more about what he's currently offering. But I would also commend you to follow Joe on the socials because he drops some really good nuggets of wisdom weekly. So be sure to follow him there. Okay, the third option, well, it's going to sound like a broken record on this channel, but it's the Sam Christensen image process. The 4-day workshop is a fast track toward finding what Sam would call your signature performance, or what we could call, based on this video, your first serve. Because the question that all of you should be asking is, well, what is my first serve? How do I get there? How do I find my signature performance? Is that even a thing? Or the more common questions that we hear and that cast directors hear every day, which is, how do I make bold choices? How do I stand out? The problem, as we see it, is that you just don't know how to give yourself permission. Your reader may encourage you. Your coach may encourage you. A bad coach may yell at you. But paradoxically, you just can't give yourself permission to take that chance. Not on your own. That reader or coach may eventually help you get there. And some of you, you know who you are, just need a suggestion from the reader to get you there. Countless times I'll be working with an actor and they'll ask me, what did you think? And I'll offer one simple little suggestion or insight or just question to ask themselves. And boom, it unlocks that first serve mentality. And it's nothing magical that I did. It's not some amazing insight. I didn't trick them or lead them into this first serve, this signature performance, they just gave themselves permission because they finally had an objective observer giving them a slightly different point of view or confirming their own point of view. And we oftentimes, as actors, for one reason or another, need that validation, that confirmation from an outside party, someone we respect, to go, okay, good, that was what I was thinking. And now that it's coming from someone else, it kind of feels like I'm being directed. It feels less like I'm taking a risk about something that I'm thinking, and I'm really just collaborating or being confirmed by the thing you're saying. And whatever, I don't know, something psychologically happens that when someone else says it, then we get permission. Maybe it's that subconsciously we feel like we're not on the hook if that direction, if that change doesn't work. You know, it was your fault, reader. You're the one who told me to do that, even though I was secretly thinking it the whole time. I don't know. Something psychological about this, that simply hearing it from someone else sometimes unlocks this signature performance. But perhaps that's a liability. I mean, of course, it'll always be helpful to get that outside objective perspective on the work. But so many actors are deficient in this arena. In other words, they are painfully unaware of their own performance and how it's being received by the audience. Oftentimes, they're sitting so close to their signature performance, their first serve, and they don't even know it. Like having mustard on your cheek. It's right there. How do you not know it's there? But unlike the mustard, this thing that I can see so obviously, that to literally every other human on the earth is so obvious, for some reason, we don't see it in ourselves. And even if while we're there in the taping room, I tell you it, most of the time, you disagree, you deny, you resist, or you kind of agree, but then there's something else that creeps in that makes you doubt. Or you actually understand it, nod your head, but then you go ahead and do the exact same thing that you just did on the previous take. As an example, take someone who looks like this. Yeah, you know, some sort of beefcake type guy, very stacked, big. And then imagine them auditioning for a character that's supposed to be big, strong, and intimidating. And then after trying to be tough and strong on the first take, the actor stops and goes, so Matt, what do you think? And I tell them, you know, you don't have to convince me that you are the tough guy, because you are the tough guy. You can just stand there. You can just be yourself. Like, you don't have to put anything on. And then they'll look at me and say, yeah, no, well, the casting needs to see that I'm tough. It's what it says in the breakdown. So thanks, but I'm going to go back to what I was doing. And I'm thinking, are you friggin' kidding me? Or let's stay with this same type of actor. And maybe it's a military sergeant who, in one of their scenes, has to get really emotional. We have to see the softer side of them. And yet the same actor is still overly concerned with showing their tough side. And what they don't realize is that, no, your toughness, your stability, your calm under pressure, your ability to achieve despite all the odds, like that's going to radiate from an actor like that no matter what they do. So they could be crying over their lost kitten, and yet you're still going to see that they're tough. And that's so hard for that type of actor to understand, that they don't ever have to work to show their tough side, their strong side. Because they're thinking, well, but it says it in the breakdown. He's tough but gentle. So I have to be both. It's like, no, you already are one of those. You only have to think about and do the work to show the gentle side, the side that as you walk through life may not be apparent to most people. Yeah, but he's tough and I really want to show. It's like, and then it's just, okay. And that's when I shut down, because I realize I'm not going to be able to take them through a 4-day Sam Christensen process in 10 minutes. So I just let them do what they came to do and try to reinforce, try to encourage as much as I can. But essentially, I can't help them in that short amount of time. And for those of you who come to get taped, that scenario might feel familiar to you, where me or one of the staff have tried to convince you of something that you don't need to show, that it's already part of you, and yet you felt the hesitation, the resistance within you, the fact that, nah, I think I need to lean into this. I think I need to show them this quality about me, because you just don't see it. You don't see the mustard on your face. The fact that it's already there. It is on display for the whole world. Everyone sees it except you. And it's impossible for me to convince you again, in a 10, 20-minute taping session, unless you do the work of something like the Sam Christensen image process. Because until you get that evidence, that specificity to gather the data to prove to you, to give you that confidence, then you'll just be always left wondering and suspicious and skeptical. And then you'll end up doing things that you don't need to do. You'll end up working too hard and sometimes putting a hat on a hat. We did a video on that once, and it ends up being too much or even icky. Or if it's an in-person, that's where you get the casting director saying, do less, Matt, which is them saying, you're already this thing. Stop trying to put a hat on a hat. Do less. Just be yourself. So for the sake of your career, for its longevity, and for my own sanity as your potential reader at your next audition, you need to figure this out. I've given you 3 solutions, but let's recap. Take the Sam Christensen image process. We offer it virtually and in person, so wherever you are, you can participate. Check the show notes below for upcoming dates and links to our website. 2, get with Joe Town and the performer's mindset. Check the show notes below for links to his website to see what his current offerings are, because mindset is so overlooked by actors. And like I said before, it can be a game changer. It can unlock parts of your craft that you didn't know you had, that were being held back simply by what's going on in between your ears. Or 3, if you just needed the reminder, the kick in the pants, then stop doing that conservative take as your first take. Stop doing the second serve. Instead, give yourself permission to do the thing that you end up doing anyways by take 3, 4, or 5. Just start doing that on the first take. Not only will you feel better, but if you go to taping services like Get Taped, you'll save money. Because any taping service is going to charge more for longer taping appointments. And if you can start nailing your performance on the first take, well, I'll let you do the math. Okay, tennis fans and non-tennis fans, let me know what you think about this analogy and how it applies to you as an actor. Drop a comment below. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.